And welcome back to part 2 of the causes of the French Revolution. We have one more cause to get through, and this cause is kind of a really, really big cause. So if you need to pause the video as you're jotting down the notes, that is fine. I'm hoping that there will be questions from the audience, so that way they may answer your questions that you might have. And if you are still confused or not sure what's going on, you can shoot me an email. So, the final cause of the massive causes of the French Revolution were social inequalities between the three estates. Now, it really goes beyond social inequalities, but we'll start with social and we'll build off of that. In France, they call their social classes estates. So where we have a lower class, middle class, upper class, in France they had the three estates. So what I'm going to ask you to do now is on your piece of paper, we're going to make a 5-column chart. So the first column is going to be estate. The second column is going to be title, so what the estate did. The next column is going to be their roles, what were their roles in society. And then finally, percentage of population. Sorry, my marker's running together there. Now these last two, I'm going to switch to this. These last two, just kind of, we need two more little columns right here. This is percentage of wealth. And this is percentage of taxes. All right, so the three estates that are in France, there is the first estate. And this first estate is made up of the clergy. So these are the church leaders, and officials. Now, the king is also part of the first estate because he is considered the head of the Catholic Church. And then there's the Pope, but the Pope lives in Italy. So the king is part of the first estate. And this first estate roughly makes up about 2 to 3%, so we'll say 2% of the population the first estate makes up. And they control about 30% of the wealth in all of France. We'll get to the taxes later. Guess what the title of the next estate is? The second estate, yeah. Really easy names to remember. The second estate, this is the nobility class. So these are your leftover lords of fiefs and the feudal system. These are your, higher up people. These people are living at Versailles. Even though they have control of different areas of France, if you were a member of the nobility, you had to be at Versailles pretty much all the time anyways. So most people just kind of lived either at the palace or very near the palace. So like I said, these are the landowners. They ran the government and served in the military. They make up roughly about 8% of the population. And they control nearly 50% of the wealth. How are we doing so far? Any questions? Okay. All right. Finally, we have the third estate. Now, the third estate is made up of sort of three subclasses. The first class is one of my favorite words to say. The bourgeoisie. Say it with me. Bourgeoisie. Yep, bourgeoisie. Yes. I'm going to put a little star right here, so right down here we can just add that the bourgeoisie, B-O-U-R-G-E-O-I-S-I-E. Yep, you're welcome. Yep, it is, thank goodness this one isn't on one of our vocab tests, huh? All right, so a little asterisk down here. The bourgeoisie, these are the factory owners. They are the merchants. They're what would be considered white-collar workers. So they're your lawyers, your doctors, professors, things like that. The next subgroup in the third estate is called the sans-culottes. It's two words. Yep. S-A-N-S is the first word. C-U-L-O-T-T-S is the second word. So sans-culottes. Literally translated, sans-culottes means without pants. So these guys were not running around only half-dressed. What a culotte is, if you think back to what people look like in the 1700s, how the noblemen dressed in the 1700s, they wore those knicker pants that came just below the knee, and then they had that silk sock that came up to the pants. Those are called culottes in France, and you had to get them specially tailored to you because everybody's thigh bone is a different length, and they'd have to hit right below the knee. You have to pay to do that. This group of people couldn't afford to do that, so they just wore regular full-length pants. So they were wearing pants, they just weren't wearing the culottes that everybody, that was very fashionable at the time for the wealthier people to wear. So the sans-culotte folks, these were your factory workers. They were your tradesmen. They were your artisans. So today we would think of them more as sort of the blue-collar workers. So they were factory workers, tradesmen, and artisans. And then the final group that made up this third estate are the peasants. And we know all about the peasants. Now, this idea of being serfs has gone by the wayside. You are no longer a serf. If you can't pay your debts, then you go into debtor's prison. That's what happens. So I don't know how you're supposed to make money there, but there we go. So what we wrote down here is going to fit kind of right up in here. So we'll just draw a little arrow up into there. Now, if it's only these 3 estates in France, and we're already at 10% of the population, what's our population number going to be for the third estate? 90%. And as far as a percentage of wealth, we're already at 80% of the wealth is taken up by these first 2 estates. How much of a percentage of wealth is being shared by these folks? 20%. So the problem comes in with this distribution. If you look around the room real quickly, and let's say we take 3 folks, roughly, and they're the first estate. These 3 folks, they get to split, if we pretend that, like this, instead of percentages, we'll say this is $100. So instead of, so 3 folks, roughly, they'll split $30. So that means they get how much each? $10 each. So then we take about 8 people, and so those 8 there, roughly, I guess there's 7 of you, you get to split $50. So how many of that is for each of you, roughly? So 7. Okay, so about $6. We'll round it down. About $6. So there is. Oh crap. So then the rest of you have to split $20. So that's about 15 of you. How much are you getting out of your $20? Less than $1 each. Here's the kicker. We haven't filled out this last column yet. Okay? So we've got $10, $6, and then $1 each. Percentage of taxes. The first estate paid about 1% in taxes, which means of your $10, you are paying $1 in tax. Okay? So you still have $9 to buy all of the things that you need. The second estate also paid about 1% in tax. So out of your $6, roughly 60 cents is going to taxes. This has to equal 100. So how much is the third estate paying in taxes? 98% in taxes. That means for your $1, you are taking home 2 cents. 2 pennies. Can you see how this is going to be an issue with the people moving forward? Yeah, big time. Most of us, if we hopped in our Wojo time machine and went back to prior to the French Revolution, every single one of us, except for maybe one, are going to be living down here in the third estate. You can see how they have no money, they have no access to wheat, and here they are, they see Marie Antoinette and the king having all these lavish parties, throwing away all this food, not understanding what's going on in society, and that is becoming a larger issue. So again, Miss Piggott's class, if you guys have any questions on this, please don't shoot me a question, or feel free to email Miss Piggott, and I will see you later.